Some places are beautiful because they are dangerous. In China, there are landscapes that look almost unreal on camera, but the feeling changes the moment people stand there in real life. The same view that looks peaceful from far away can become tense up close. When the ground feels too narrow, the weather changes too fast, or the space below is too deep to ignore. These are not ordinary tourist spots. They are places where beauty and risk sit very close together, and where a small mistake can turn a breathtaking view into something much more serious. In this documentary, we explore some of China's most dangerous places, where the scenery is unforgettable, but the danger is always part of the experience. If you enjoy discovering the hidden and extreme sides of the world, make sure to stay until the end and subscribe for more journeys like this. One, a walk beside the drop. Huashan Plank Walk is dangerous because the fear appears as soon as you step onto it. This is not a wide mountain trail where visitors can walk freely and enjoy the view. It is a narrow wooden path fixed directly onto the side of Mount Hua, with the rock wall on one side and a steep drop on the other. The walkway sits near South Peak, one of the highest and most exposed parts of the mountain. To move forward, visitors have to clip into a safety line, hold the chain along the cliff, and place their feet carefully on the wooden boards. The path is not built for comfort. It is built in a way that makes people feel the mountain at every step. The cliff is close to the body. The boards are narrow under the feet, and the empty space beside the path is impossible to ignore. What makes this place frightening is not only the height, it is the lack of space. On a normal trail, people can slow down, stop, or step aside without thinking too much. But here, even a simple movement feels serious. Turning around, passing another person, or looking down for too long can make the body tense up immediately. The mind knows there is safety gear, but the eyes still see the drop, and that is enough to make every step slower. Huashan Plank Walk has become famous because the danger is easy to understand. You do not need to know much about climbing to feel why this place is scary. A thin path, a vertical cliff, and a long fall below are enough. For many visitors, the hardest part is not strength, but staying calm while standing in a place where there is almost no room to make a mistake. That is why this path feels different from a normal tourist attraction. It is beautiful, but it does not let people forget the risk. It turns a short walk into a moment of pressure, where every step reminds you that the mountain is not there to make you comfortable. 2. The peak that feels like a wall. Heavenly Capital Peak, also known as Tiandu Peak, is not the kind of mountain that lets visitors walk up easily. It rises inside the Huangshan scenic area, and the danger here comes from the climb itself. The path is steep, narrow, and exposed, so every step feels more serious than a normal mountain trail. The higher people go, the more the route starts to feel like a wall instead of a path. Stone steps cut into the mountain lead visitors upward, while iron chains give them something to hold when the slope becomes too sharp. This is not a place where people can move fast or relax too much. The climb forces them to keep their eyes on the next step, because the trail can quickly become tiring, especially when the wind, height, and crowds make the space feel even smaller. What makes Tiandu Peak intense is the pressure of going up and knowing that coming down will not be simple either. On a steep mountain, climbing up takes strength, but climbing down takes control. Each step down can feel heavier because the body is already tired, the knees are under pressure, and the drop beside the trail is still there. That is why this peak is not only a test of courage, but also a test of patience. The view from the top can be beautiful, with Huangshan's granite peaks and clouds spreading around the mountain. But the climb does not let visitors forget how hard it is to reach that view. Tiandu Peak is famous because it gives people both things at once: the reward of standing above one of China's most famous landscapes, and the stress of knowing that the mountain does not make the journey easy. This is what makes Heavenly Capital Peak different from a simple viewpoint. People do not just arrive, take a picture, and leave. They have to earn each part of the climb. The danger is not hidden in one sudden moment. It builds slowly through the steep steps, the tight path, the chains, the height, and the feeling that one careless movement can turn a beautiful climb into a serious problem. 3. The beautiful mountain that makes breathing hard. Jade Dragon Snow Mountain is not dangerous in the same way as a narrow cliff path. The danger here comes from height, cold air, and the way the body reacts when it is taken too high too quickly. From a distance, the mountain looks calm and clean, with white peaks rising above Lijiang. But once visitors move higher, the place becomes much harder on the body than it looks. The mountain's highest peak, Shanzidou, rises to 5,596 meters. Most tourists do not climb anywhere near the summit, but even the main viewing areas are already high enough to make many people feel the altitude. At this height, walking can become slower, breathing can feel heavier, and a simple set of steps can suddenly feel much more tiring than expected. That is why many visitors bring oxygen bottles, not because the mountain looks extreme, but because the air itself becomes part of the challenge. What makes Jade Dragon Snow Mountain easy to underestimate is its beauty. The snow, clouds, blue ice, and bright sky can make the place feel peaceful on camera. But high mountains do not become safe just because they look clean. Weather can change quickly, the temperature can drop, and the body may react before a person fully understands what is happening. For someone who is not used to altitude, dizziness, shortness of breath, or weakness can turn a normal sightseeing trip into a difficult experience. The glacier area adds another layer to that feeling. The ice looks still from far away, but glaciers are not just frozen decorations. They are part of a mountain system shaped by cold, pressure, and time. Visitors may come for the view, but the mountain is not built around human comfort. It is a place where the landscape is beautiful because it is high, cold, and difficult to reach. That is what makes Jade Dragon Snow Mountain different from many tourist spots. It does not need a narrow wooden plank or a glass bridge to feel dangerous. It only needs altitude. The higher people go, the more they realize that the real challenge is not always what they can see under their feet. Sometimes, the danger is in the air they are trying to breathe. 4. The summit where clouds hide the danger. Mount Fanjing is dangerous because the weather can change the whole experience very quickly. From below, the mountain looks peaceful, with forests, clouds, and temples sitting high above the valley. But once visitors move closer to the summit, the same clouds that make the view beautiful can also make the path harder to read. The most famous part of the mountain is the Red Cloud's Golden Summit. It rises like a narrow stone pillar, with steep stairs leading upward and a small bridge connecting the two sides near the top. This is not a place where people can walk without paying attention. The path is tight, the steps are exposed, and when fog moves in, the space around the summit can feel much smaller than it really is. What makes Fanjing different from a normal mountain viewpoint is the mix of height and weather. On a clear day, the view can feel open and calm. But when clouds cover the path, visitors may lose the sense of distance, depth, and direction. Wet stone can become slippery, wind can make the climb more tense, and the narrow sections force people to move slowly instead of rushing. The danger here is not always dramatic. It does not need a glass floor or a wooden plank hanging from a cliff. It comes from small things adding up: steep stairs, thin air, fog, wet surfaces, and the pressure of walking near exposed edges. For someone who is already tired, those small things can quickly make the climb feel much harder. That is why Mount Fanjing feels both beautiful and serious. It is famous for clouds and temples above the mountains, but that beauty is also the reason people must stay careful. When the clouds rise, the summit can stop looking like a peaceful place and start feeling like a narrow path where every step needs attention. The waterfall that turns the Yellow River into a force. Hukou Waterfall is dangerous because the Yellow River does not flow gently here. It is forced into a much narrower channel, and that sudden squeeze turns the river into a heavy, violent mass of water. From a distance, Hukou may look like a powerful waterfall, but up close, the feeling is much stronger. The water is not clear and calm. It is thick, yellow, and full of sediment from the Yellow River. When it rushes through the narrow opening, it falls with a deep roar, throwing mist, foam, and muddy spray into the air. The danger comes from the compression. A wide river has space to spread out, but at Hukou, the water is pushed into a tight gap between rock walls. That makes the current faster, louder, and harder to control. It does not feel like a normal scenic waterfall. It feels like the river is being forced through a stone mouth. What makes Hukou more serious is that the water changes with the season. During stronger flow periods, the waterfall becomes wider, louder, and more aggressive. In colder months, ice can add another layer of danger, because broken ice and rushing water move together through the same narrow channel. This is why Hukou Waterfall is not just a place to stand close to for a better photo. Its beauty comes from the same force that makes it dangerous. The yellow water, the narrow gorge, the heavy sound, and the spray in the air all show one thing clearly. When a huge river is squeezed into a small space, it stops looking peaceful and becomes something people should never underestimate. Six, the road that never lets the driver relax. Panlong Ancient Road is dangerous because it looks beautiful from above, but feels very different when someone has to drive through it. From a drone view, the road bends across the mountain like a long black line. On the ground, it becomes a constant series of turns, slopes, and blind corners that demand attention from the first minute. This road is famous for having hundreds of bends in a short mountain section. That is what makes it impressive on camera, but also what makes the drive tiring. The driver cannot relax for long, because another curve appears almost immediately after the last one. Every turn changes the view, the angle of the road, and the space available for the car. The danger here is not one single cliff or one sudden drop. It comes from repetition. Turn after turn, the body gets used to the motion, the eyes keep checking the road, and the hands stay busy on the wheel. On a high mountain road, that kind of focus can become exhausting, especially when the scenery is so open that passengers want to look around while the driver has to stay locked on the road. Panlong Ancient Road is also a reminder that famous roads online are still real roads. The same curves that make the place popular for videos and photos can become risky if people stop in the wrong place, drive too fast, or pay more attention to the view than the traffic. A beautiful road does not become safe just because it looks clean and smooth from above. That is why this place feels both exciting and stressful. Panlong Ancient Road gives visitors a view they will remember, but it also forces them to respect every bend. The road may look like a perfect travel scene, but behind that image is a simple truth. When a mountain road keeps turning again and again, one moment of distraction can be enough to create danger. Seven, the bridge where the ground disappears. Zhangjiajie Grand Canyon glass bridge is dangerous in a way that feels very direct. The bridge is there, the glass is under your feet, and the structure is built for visitors. But the moment people look down, their body can still react, as if there is nothing holding them at all. This bridge stretches across Zhangjiajie Grand Canyon, with a deep empty space below and cliffs on both sides. On a normal bridge, people can focus on the view ahead and trust the ground under their feet. Here, the glass floor changes that feeling. Every step shows the canyon below, so the mind has to fight against what the eyes are seeing. The hardest part is not only the height, it is the feeling of exposure. People are not hidden behind walls or walking through a closed path. They are standing in the open, above a canyon, with wind, glass, and a long distance beneath them. Even if the bridge is engineered to be safe, fear does not always listen to engineering. The body still understands that it is far above the ground. That is why this bridge became so famous. It does not need people to climb a cliff or walk on a narrow wooden plank. It takes a simple action: walking across a bridge, and turns it into a mental challenge. Some visitors move slowly, some hold the railing, and some stop in the middle because the clear floor makes every step feel heavier. Zhangjiajie Grand Canyon Glass Bridge shows that danger is not always about something breaking or falling. Sometimes, the fear comes from being able to see too much. The bridge gives people a safe way across the canyon, but it also removes the feeling of solid ground. And once that feeling disappears, even a short walk can become difficult. 8. The road that wears down your focus. Panlong Ancient Road is not dangerous because of one single turn. It is dangerous because the turns keep coming. From above, the road looks amazing, twisting across the mountains like a giant line drawn on stone. But for the person behind the wheel, that beauty becomes a long test of focus. This is the kind of road where the driver cannot relax after one curve, because another one appears almost immediately. The car keeps turning, the view keeps changing, and the road keeps asking for small corrections again and again. At first, it may feel exciting, but after many bends, the same movement can become tiring, especially on a high mountain road where the air is thinner and the body already feels less comfortable. The risk here is easy to miss on camera. A drone shot makes Panlong look smooth and almost perfect, but driving it is very different. Every curve has its own blind spot. Every slope changes how the car feels. If someone drives too fast, stops carelessly, or focuses too much on the scenery, the road can become dangerous very quickly. What makes Panlong stand out is how beautiful and stressful it is at the same time. The mountain views make people want to look around, take photos, and enjoy the route. But the driver has to do the opposite. They have to keep watching the road, control the speed, and stay ready for the next bend before it arrives. That is why Panlong Ancient Road is more than just a famous mountain road. It shows how a place can be stunning from the sky, but demanding on the ground. The danger is not loud or dramatic. It builds slowly through repetition, until one small moment of lost focus becomes the thing that matters most. Nine. The gorge, where the river does the damage. Leaping Gorge is dangerous because the river is trapped inside a narrow mountain gap. This is not a calm river valley where the water moves quietly below the trail. Here, the Jinsha River is forced between steep cliffs, and that makes the whole gorge feel loud, tight, and difficult to ignore. The scale of the place is what makes it feel serious. The gorge sits between Jade Dragon Snow Mountain and Haba Mountain, so the walls around it rise sharply on both sides. When visitors look down, they do not just see water. They see a powerful river, squeezed through rock, hitting stones, breaking into waves, and making a heavy sound that fills the canyon. The danger here is not only the depth, it is the way everything is compressed into one space. The river has very little room to spread out, so the current becomes stronger and more aggressive. The cliffs make the sound echo, the trail can feel exposed, and the distance between the high path and the water below makes every viewpoint feel more intense than a normal hike. Leaping Gorge is also easy to underestimate because it is famous as a trekking route. Many people come here for the views, the mountain walls, and the feeling of walking through one of China's most dramatic landscapes. But a famous trail is still a mountain trail. Weather, loose rock, steep sections, and tired legs can make the route harder than it looks on camera. That is why this gorge feels different from a simple scenic stop. It is beautiful, but the beauty comes from pressure. Mountains pressing in from both sides, water pushing through the bottom, and a narrow path carrying people above it all. Leaping Gorge reminds visitors that a river does not need to be huge on the surface to be dangerous. When it is forced through a tight gorge, it can become one of the strongest forces in the landscape. 10. The bridge that moves under the wheels. Shiziguan Floating Bridge is dangerous because it does not feel like a normal road. Instead of standing on solid ground or concrete pillars, the bridge floats directly on the water, so every vehicle crossing it creates a different feeling under the wheels. From above, the bridge looks calm and beautiful. It curves across green water, surrounded by forest and canyon walls, making cars appear as if they are driving on the surface of the river. But once a vehicle enters the bridge, the experience becomes more serious. The road is narrow, the water is close on both sides, and the bridge can move slightly with the weight and motion of traffic. That movement is what makes the crossing feel unusual. A driver normally expects the road to stay completely still. Here, the surface can feel softer, and the water around it makes the whole scene more sensitive. This is why speed matters so much. If a vehicle moves too fast, turns carelessly, or loses control, there is not much room to correct the mistake. The danger here is not the same as a cliff path or a glass bridge. People are not looking down into a huge empty drop. Instead, they are trusting a floating structure while moving across water. The bridge may look peaceful on camera, but it still needs rules, slow driving, and full attention from the person behind the wheel. That is why Shiziguan Floating Bridge is more than just a beautiful tourist scene. It gives visitors the strange feeling of driving on water, but it also reminds them that beauty does not remove risk. When the road itself is floating, even a calm river crossing has to be treated with respect. 11. The cliff route built for apes, not comfort. Jianmen Pass Ape Road is dangerous because it feels too narrow for a normal person to move with confidence. This is not a clean tourist staircase or a wide mountain trail. It is a thin route pressed against a steep cliff, where the body has to stay close to the rock and every step needs attention. The name already gives the feeling of the place. Ape Road was once linked to the kind of path that only agile animals or local people used to harsh mountain terrain could handle. Today, visitors can challenge it with safety equipment, but the route still keeps its raw feeling. The path is narrow, the cliff is exposed, and the space for movement is limited. What makes this road stressful is how little room it gives the visitor. When a path is only wide enough for careful steps, the mind cannot fully relax. The hands want to hold on, the feet move slower, and the eyes keep checking the next foothold. Even if a person is not extremely afraid of heights, this kind of route can still create pressure because the cliff stays close the whole time. The danger here is not about speed, it is about control. People have to move steadily, follow the route, and avoid rushing just because others are behind them. On a narrow cliff path, panic can be more dangerous than the climb itself. The body may want to hurry through the scary part, but the safest choice is often to slow down. 12. The road that disappears underwater. Yongwu Road is dangerous because it can stop looking like a road. During the rainy season, water from Poyang Lake rises and covers part of the surface, turning an ordinary route into a strange scene where cars appear to move across the lake. From a distance, the road looks almost unreal. The water reflects the sky, the guard posts stand in a line, and vehicles seem to glide through a shallow water world. But for the driver, this is not just a beautiful view. The road is still there under the water, and that means every movement has to stay controlled. The biggest risk is visibility. When water covers the surface, it becomes harder to read the exact edge of the road. A dry road gives clear lines, but a flooded road can hide small details. The driver has to follow the guideposts, keep the vehicle steady, and avoid treating the scene like an open space. Yongwu Road is also easy to underestimate because the water often looks calm. Calm water can make people feel safe, but it can still hide depth changes, slippery sections, and the real edge of the pavement. If someone drives too fast, stops carelessly, or moves away from the marked path, the road can become dangerous very quickly. That is why this place is famous, but also serious. Yongwu Road gives visitors the rare feeling of driving through water, but it is not a place for careless photos or sudden moves. Its beauty only appears when the lake rises just enough, and that same water is the reason people have to stay focused from start to finish. 13. The river wave that moves like a wall. Qiantang River tidal bore is dangerous because it does not behave like a normal river wave. Instead of moving gently with the river, the tide pushes back from the sea and rushes upstream, turning the water into a moving wall. From a distance, the scene can look exciting and almost unreal. People gather along the riverbank to watch the wave arrive, and the sound often comes before the water reaches them. But this is not just a natural show. When the tide enters the river mouth and is squeezed by the shape of the bay, the water builds up and moves forward with serious force. The danger comes from how fast everything changes. One moment, the river surface can look wide and open. Then the bore appears, pushing muddy water, foam, and waves across the channel. Anyone too close to the edge can be caught off guard, because the water does not need much time to reach the riverbank. What makes the Qiantang tidal bore easy to underestimate is the crowd around it. When many people stand together to watch, the scene can feel controlled, like a festival or a normal sightseeing event. But the river is still the one in control. The wave can be stronger in certain conditions, and the muddy current can hit barriers, boats, or exposed areas with enough force to become dangerous. That is why this place is different from a waterfall or a mountain road. The risk is moving toward people. The Qiantang River tidal bore is beautiful because it shows the power of water in motion, but that same movement is what makes it serious. When a river wave comes in like a wall, watching from a safe distance is not just a rule. It is the only smart way to see it. (14) The ridge that makes people slow down. Panlong Ridge is dangerous because it forces people to slow down almost immediately. This is not a soft mountain trail with trees and open space around it. It is a steep stone ridge on Mount Hua, where the path rises along the mountain like a narrow back of rock. The pressure comes from the shape of the route. The steps go upward in a long line, with deep drops on both sides and chains for visitors to hold. Even when the path is not extremely long, it can feel intense because there is very little room to move freely. People cannot just look around and walk at the same time. They have to watch their feet, hold the chain, and keep their balance with every step. What makes this ridge difficult is not only the height, but the feeling of being exposed. A normal staircase gives people a sense of control. Panlong Ridge does the opposite. The slope is steep, the stone steps keep climbing, and the mountain opens sharply around the trail. When wind, crowds, or tired legs are added to that, the climb becomes more than just a physical effort. This is why many visitors become quiet here. The view may be beautiful, but the body understands that this is not a place for careless movement. Going too fast can make the climb harder. Looking down too much can make the fear stronger. The safest way forward is simple, but not easy. Stay calm, hold on, and take one careful step at a time. Panlong Ridge shows that a dangerous place does not always need a glass floor or a broken road to feel serious. Sometimes, a steep ridge, a line of stone steps, and open space on both sides are enough. The mountain gives people a path, but it does not let them forget that every step still matters. (15) The mountain that feels like an outdoor furnace. Flaming mountains are dangerous because the heat is not just in the air. It comes from the ground, the rocks, and the open desert around the mountain. This is not a place where danger appears suddenly, like a cliff edge or a glass bridge. Here, the danger builds slowly through heat, dryness, and exposure. The mountains sit near Turpan, one of the hottest areas in China. Their red sandstone ridges make the landscape look as if it is burning under the sun. From a distance, the color is what makes the place famous. But up close, the heat is what people feel first. There is very little shade, very little moisture, and the bare rock reflects the sun back into the air. What makes this place difficult is how quickly the body can become tired. In extreme heat, walking even a short distance can feel heavier than expected. Sweat dries fast, the mouth becomes dry, and the ground itself can feel like it is pushing heat upward. Unlike a mountain path, where people fear one wrong step, flaming mountains create pressure in a slower way. The longer someone stays exposed, the more serious the environment becomes. The beauty of this place can make people underestimate it. The red hills look dramatic on camera, and the dry lines in the rock make the whole area feel like a natural sculpture. But this is still a harsh desert landscape. If visitors treat it only as a photo spot and forget the heat, water, and time under the sun, the place can become uncomfortable very quickly. That is why flaming mountains feel dangerous without needing height or water. The risk is simple and easy to understand. Too much heat, too little shade, and a landscape that gives the body almost no relief. It is beautiful because it looks like fire, but the real warning is not the color. It is the heat that makes every minute outside feel longer. "16. The road that looks safer than it is." G315 U-shaped road is dangerous because it looks too perfect on camera. From the right angle, the road seems to drop down and rise straight back into the sky, creating one of the most famous highway views in Western China. But the same shape that makes it beautiful can also make people forget that this is still a real road. The road is not dangerous because it is broken or badly built. The risk comes from how people behave around it. Many visitors see the long empty highway, the desert around it, and the dramatic U-shaped slope, then treat the place like a photo spot. But cars and trucks are still moving through the same space, and a road that looks empty from one angle can change quickly when a vehicle comes over the rise. The biggest problem is the blind spot. Because the road dips and climbs, drivers and tourists may not always see each other early enough. Someone standing in the middle of the road for a photo may think they have time, but a vehicle can appear faster than expected. On a remote highway, that small delay in seeing danger can become serious. The desert around the road adds another layer of pressure. The landscape is wide and open, so it can make the road feel safer than it really is. There are no tall buildings, no crowded streets, and no obvious chaos. But that quietness can be misleading. High speed, long distances, heat, and distraction can turn a beautiful roadside stop into a dangerous moment. That is why G35 U-shaped road should not be treated like a background for photos only. Its beauty comes from the shape of the land and the way the highway cuts through it. But the road is still built for traffic, not for people standing in the lane. "17. The canyon that is still being cut open." Zhangjiajie Grand Canyon is dangerous because the ground here does not feel stable in the normal way. This is not a smooth valley with soft slopes and easy paths. It is a deep cut in the land, shaped by water, wind, and time, with steep walls rising on both sides. The canyon sits in Xinjiang, where snowmelt and rainwater have carved through the ground over many years. From the edge, visitors can see layers of earth and rock dropping into the canyon below. The view is impressive, but it also makes the place feel serious. The same forces that created the canyon are still working on it. What makes Zhangjiajie different from a normal viewpoint is the feeling that the landscape is not finished. Water continues to run through the lower parts, wind keeps wearing down the exposed walls, and loose material can shift after rain or bad weather. Standing near the edge, the danger is easy to understand. This is a place where the land has already been broken open, and it is still being changed. The canyon can look almost unreal on camera, with folded walls, dry gray surfaces, and deep cracks cutting across the ground. But the beauty should not make people careless. A canyon edge is not the same as a paved viewing deck. The ground can be uneven, the drop can be hard to judge, and the distance to the bottom can feel much greater once someone stands there in person. That is why Zhangjiajie Grand Canyon is more than just a dramatic landscape. It shows how slowly nature can create danger. There is no need for a bridge, a plank, or a rushing crowd. The risk is already in the shape of the land itself: steep walls, loose edges, deep cuts, and a canyon that reminds visitors the earth under their feet is not always as solid as it looks. "18. the ridge where the beauty sits right next to the drop. Gaoyiling is dangerous because the path looks beautiful before it looks serious. From above, the red ridges curve between blue-green water, and the whole place feels more like a painting than a risky landscape. But once people step onto the narrow ridgelines, the beauty and the danger start sitting side by side. This area is known for its Danxia landform, with rounded red sandstone ridges rising above lakes and low valleys. That shape is what makes Gaoyiling so famous, but it also explains why the walk can feel tense. Some parts of the path are narrow, the slopes fall away on both sides, and there is very little space to move carelessly. The risk here is easy to understand. Gaoyiling does not need great height like a snowy mountain, and it does not need fast water like a tidal bore. Its danger comes from balance, footing, and exposure. When people walk along a ridge with open space dropping away on both sides, even a simple trail can feel much more serious. What makes this place easy to underestimate is how smooth and calm it looks in photos. The red stone, the still water, and the clean lines of the ridges make the whole area look gentle. But a gentle-looking landscape can still be unsafe when the path is narrow and the ground is uneven. Visitors may come for the view, but the route still demands attention from beginning to end. That is why Gaoyiling feels different from a normal viewpoint. It is not only a place to stand and admire the scenery. It is a place where the scenery itself creates the risk. The closer people move to the best views, the more they understand that the same ridges making the landscape beautiful are also the reason every step has to be careful. Conclusion: beautiful does not mean safe. China has many places that look incredible from a distance, but the closer people get, the more they understand why these landscapes cannot be treated like normal tourist spots. Some places are dangerous because the path is too narrow. Some are dangerous because the water moves too fast. Some are dangerous because the air becomes thin, the heat becomes extreme, or the road itself creates blind spots. What all of these places have in common is that their beauty comes from difficult conditions. A canyon looks dramatic because the land has been cut deep. A mountain looks impressive because it rises high and steep. A desert road looks unreal because it crosses a place where very little can survive. A glass bridge becomes famous because it stands above a space most people would normally avoid. That is why these destinations are not just beautiful backgrounds for photos. They are reminders that nature does not need to be angry to become dangerous. It only needs height, water, heat, cold, wind, or one narrow path where people have to pay attention. In places like this, confidence is useful, but carelessness is not. The most important lesson from these dangerous places in China is simple. A view can be unforgettable, but it still deserves respect. The best way to experience these landscapes is not to prove that we are stronger than them. It is to understand that every step, every road, and every viewpoint exists inside a much bigger force than us. If you enjoyed this journey, leave a comment and tell us which place felt the most dangerous to you. And don't forget to subscribe for more documentaries about the hidden and extreme sides of our world.